Well, I think in part it comes down to age. I've been in business for over 25 years and I've held a lot of roles. I started as a business analyst in a global organisation. I then moved to being a project manager, then a programme manager, managing multiple projects, then global programme manager. I've taken on board positions. I am an advisor to several boards now. So I think it's that mixture of lots of roles and experience. I've had lots of successes, but I've also made lots of mistakes, all of which has given me examples to learn from, but also examples to share with my coachees to explain how things don't always go as we would like them to and how we deal with that. So I think there's plenty of experience there, and I've worked in lots of different industries as well. But something I feel very passionately about is that my experience isn't enough. If you're going to be an effective coach, I think what's important to me as well is that I've balanced that experience with continued development of my academic knowledge. So I understand the different theories and models that underpin some of the things that I've done. So I can put it in that language and I can explain perhaps why people are motivated in different ways, or what kind of experience people have when they go through a change and what's the psychology behind it. So I think my academic understanding coupled with my experience is really important. Often my coachees can be divided into two groups. They may have a middle management responsibility. So they may have managers reporting to them and there are teams reporting into them, and they are facing some significant change at work. They're probably being asked to manage that change because of their specialist knowledge. So they might be in finance or in marketing or operations, and that's the area of the business that's being changed. So they are expected to successfully implement it, and that means persuading all of the people that report to them to learn new ways of working. They might be involved in setting up new teams, they might be involved in taking on new responsibilities and perhaps having to recast how they are seen in the organisation alongside these new responsibilities. So often there's an awful lot about how do we get teams up and running effectively, how do we form teams, how do we challenge them. So it's quite practical hands-on work. The other group tend to be in a more senior management position. They tend to be closer to the strategic objectives of the organisation. They might not necessarily have set the strategy, but certainly they are very close to how it is implemented on quite a wide scale. And they are looking for help about how to plan and how to manage change initiatives from the very beginning, from that initial idea all the way through the life cycle. So they're looking for help about how do they structure their work, how do they create some kind of plan for the change initiative, and how do they communicate that and get everybody on board with that. I'm quite hands-on. I think the most important thing is that people don't walk out of a coaching session feeling that they've had a lovely conversation. I'm far too pragmatic for that. So when we talk, the questions I ask are about understanding what you currently know and what the issues are that you really want to address. I'm looking to find the gaps and the problems. I don't want to go over old ground, things that you already understand and things that you're already good at. What I'm looking for is how can I help plug any gaps in your knowledge and experience, and how can I help you learn more. In doing that, one of the things I'm very keen on is that we don't just bat back and forth lots of ideas about potential solutions for your challenges, but having identified which solutions speak best to you and make you feel most comfortable, we then break those solutions down into detailed plans, understand all of the activities that you and your colleagues are going to have to do, and then you can walk out of the coaching session with your own plan and a really good understanding of what it is you're going to do next. So I'm very keen to take the idea of sorting out solutions and make it quite practical. I think probably the most rewarding part of my job is that I see people gaining confidence when they're talking to me, and as we go through their problems, which often when they walk in the room do feel in part insurmountable, It is very lonely sometimes to be in a management and leadership role, and with a coach in a confidential situation you can perhaps admit things that you're worried about. But in doing that and just talking things through, looking for solutions and then coming up with those practical activities, I can genuinely see that the tension lessening and the shoulders sort of relaxing a little bit, and I feel that I've really helped somebody go forward and make a difference. So that's really why I do this job. I absolutely love that moment when people feel much more confident and much more in control of their own situation. The most important thing that I establish with the organisation is that I don't report back on what happens in the coaching session. They've hired me to make a difference to the individual, and it is how that individual then goes on to solve problems and has successes that will evidence what's happened in the coaching session, not what conversations we've talked about and what I've said in return. So I don't take any assignment where I would be expected to report back, because that just breaches every idea of confidentiality for me. People have to be able to trust me, and I have to trust them as well, because I might be coming out with lots of different possible ideas and solutions. It's part of the brainstorming, and I don't want every single one of those reported back. I mean, some of them are nonsensical and some of them are great. So we have to have lots of confidence between us. So confidentiality, what happens in that room stays in that room. I can't name him, he might be watching this video, but I always remember him. He came to me, he was given coaching as he was a relatively new project manager. He was being asked to manage projects in his specialist area, which was in health. That's all I'm going to say about him. And I worked with him over a number of months, and he then didn't just take on a project management role, but he then took on a program management role. So I worked with him to understand what the differences were and how he was feeling. And over the last few years I've watched his career, and we still keep in touch, and he's now the Global Chief Operating Officer for an organisation. And over the last 8 years I would say that that's probably given me a huge amount of pleasure to see somebody who was superb actually just fine-tune their approach and go on to have fantastic success. I think it's about investing in that person, and the fact that if they're asking for coaching, then clearly what they're looking for is potentially a long-term relationship with their employer. And that kind of stability can be a great cost saving, because the cost of hiring is very expensive. So I think it has to be judged on its merits. I also think that what the individual's asking for, if they're asking for coaching, is that idea that they want to get better and that they want to improve, and that they can probably give some examples of situations that they think they could handle better after coaching. So again, it's about, in fact, building an informal business case. Also, coaching is very targeted, it's very specific, so it's not like a generic training course. It is tailored to that individual and the issues that that individual needs to address. So you can expect to see a greater return, if you like, in terms of that person's ability really climbing very high, very quickly after coaching.